Now, our next guest is one of Ireland's best-known doctors and mental health advocates with 12 best-selling books under his belt.
But his latest book is very different to anything he's ever written, and he's here to tell us all about it. It's Dr. Harry Barry. Good morning to you.
Good
Harry,
morning.
great to have you
Harry.
with us.
Good morning.
Your new book, it is very different to a lot of the books you've done before. It's a memoir. Your last book, is this your 12th one?
This is my 12th book, and I promised my wife faithfully that this would be my last book.
It must be amazing, though, because you've written some incredible books before, but actually to look back on your own story, I think must be...
I think this was very different because, to a certain extent, you're laying yourself bare. Do you know what I mean? You're making yourself vulnerable. But I strongly believe that vulnerability is one of the great skills of life. Do you know what I mean? Like we were all taught that we shouldn't, we should never show vulnerability. We should always be, on top of everything. And but that's not real life.
It's something, as a rugby player that I know, Andy Farrell, the new head coach of the rugby team, is something that he tries to embrace because it's not seen as a masculine thing.
No.
Certainly whenever we played, vulnerability was something you hid away.
No.
Where now this new way of coaching is to try and encourage people to be more open.
To be more open. And I think, I talked in the book about the difference between the feminine side of ourselves and the masculine side of ourselves. And I've always found myself more attracted to the more feminine traits like vulnerability, listening, empathy, compassion. I find myself comfortable in that space. Do you know what I mean? Now that leaves me very vulnerable. Do you know what I mean? In the sense that, it's not the male macho thing. It's not the heavy drinking culture. It's not the thing to do. But for me, it's very, very important that we as both men and women, do you know what I mean, start looking at these things like empathy and compassion and things like this.
But is this the issue, that we gender everything rather than seeing us as a whole and that we are comprised of everything?
We are holistic people. Do you know what I mean? We're not we don't have physical health, we don't have mental health, we just have holistic health. Do you know what I mean? We are one people.
You grew up, you were bullied as a child, you felt quite isolated.
Yeah.
And like going on to medical school and choosing to do something like that, you always felt like a little bit of an outsider.
I was always an outsider because, we moved around an awful lot. I never had the chance to develop roots or community.
Your dad was a bank manager.
Yeah, my father was a bank manager. We moved all the time. Boarding school was horrible. I hated it. Even coming to Dublin, I was just 17. Do you know what? I was only a child back in that era, back in 1970. And you were coming into a capital city. You didn't know anybody. And I'm sure so many students can relate to this nowadays. But there was also that feeling that I was the first one in my family to go to college. I was the first one to do medicine. Do you know what I mean? So I was kind of breaking new ground all the way. But all of those things, and having to fight your way through, to the Mater, to Crumlin, to Holles Street, they all kind of taught you skills, you know what I mean, resilient skills, and that prepared you for Africa. And Africa, I always maintain, Africa's where I left Ireland as an idealistic young adult wanting to help people. I came back really as a man. Do you know what I mean? It's an extraordinary thing to say, but I had to do things out there. I saw things that nobody should see. Do you know what I mean? I saw, have you ever seen a Kwashiorkor child where he was so swollen, he was dying from sickle cell anemia, from malaria, and I had to literally cut through all the fat or all the tissue here to get to his carotid arteries or to get to his veins, to try and get a drip in.
Is this something doctors did back then? Because this was in 1979. You were a young doctor, obviously working in Dublin, and then went to Tanzania.
Tanzania.
Why, or was this what a lot of doctors did?
It was a thing of service. There was an air at that time where it felt right to help other people. And myself and Brenda, we decided before we would come back and get involved in our careers and all the rest of it, that we would help other people. So it was like a commitment. But nothing can prepare you for how awful. Do you know what I mean? You can. Yeah. When I see starving children now, I say these pictures coming from different parts of the world at the moment, they really upset me because I've had these children in my arms. Do you know what I mean? I've seen them. I helped set up a nutrition clinic when I was there. Mothers were dying because there was no blood bank. We tried to set up a blood bank. Do you know what I mean?
And 45 years later, you're still seeing children in Gaza, Yemen, Sudan,
and
all over the world starve.
It breaks my heart because it's women and children are suffering. Do you know?
And we do know Médecins Sans Frontières. We see so many doctors trying to get into Sudan all the time, trying to get into Yemen, trying to get into Gaza, trying to get into places all the time. You did that, but also, Brenda, your wife was with you, by your side. And when you were in Tanzania, Brenda went into labour early. So at the time, it was like 31, 32 weeks. You had to deliver your own baby.
That was the most extraordinary thing. I had it all organised. I had a midwife set up and all the rest of it, you know. And but she had to send her off in an emergency. And just as she left, my wife started to get heavy contractions, went into labour, and we ended up delivering the baby at 32-week-old prem as best we could work out. And it was the most extraordinary feeling to deliver your own child. You know, I mean, to have, you know, I can't really explain, but it bonded us together in a way in which is extraordinary. And we were doing this by bush lamp with the fireflies around the place. Do you know what I mean? It's almost beyond comprehension. And I think my wife's face when the child came out and we realised it was very premature, because in those days, a 32 or premature baby was really a problem. But, you know, Sister Kieran, that wonderful lady who I love so much, she came to the rescue. We were very lucky he didn't develop respiratory distress. And, you know, we put the baby in an incubator, loads of hot water bottles. We started three hourly feeds, do you know what I mean? And it was nearly Christmas time. I mean, it was 2 days before Christmas. So my wife was home with the child, tube feeding the baby at Christmas.
It must be amazing to go through, to look back on that.
Oh, I found myself in tears.
Really?
Regularly. You know, there's some lovely, beautiful poems there that I wrote for my wife. But there was times when I was doing this, I was in tears.
We were just speaking and you were saying something, you know, about the busyness of life and how things seem to have changed, that we used to be there for each other and now we're all about the self.
Yeah.
What would you say to anyone who's listening? Because it does feel, for an awful lot of people, that, you know, community mightn't be there. We're the loneliest country in Europe when you go by statistics. Yeah. Harry, this book is beautiful, but what would you say to people?
I would say to people, I would give you the advice that Sister Kieran gave to me all those years ago in Tanzania when I was really struggling. And she said, you know, your job, you can't change the world, you can't change the situation, and by God is that true at the moment, but we can be there for each other. We can be there for each individual person that's in front of you. So I would say to everybody, pick one person each day who looks vulnerable, who looks as if they could really use that couple of minutes. Stop. Get off your busy train, do you know what I mean? And open up your heart to that person and let them open up their heart to you. And in that empathy experience, you will help that person and you will feel much better. Do you know what I mean? And if we all did that right around the country, our mental health would dramatically improve. Do you know what I mean?
It's so true. I mean, you look at the scenes all over the world and sometimes you can feel overwhelmed by that, where sometimes actually going and speaking to a neighbour, speaking to somebody can actually
doing
help.
Something simple, something small. We all have this image that we have to do big things.
Change the world.
It's the little things that actually really, really matter. And that maybe is a great lesson for me, do you know what I mean? Over the years, do you know what I mean?
But has that been everything that you've been through? You know, from being a GP, going to Tanzania, seeing what happened there, coming back to Ireland, and then realising that, you know, GPs are port of call. Like when I remember the first time I listened to you on the radio, and it was about we have to be preventative. We have to start seeing signs that there's something wrong with people. You had seen someone who had who jumped into who died by suicide, and it made you change the way you viewed everything that we have to prevent. How do you think we're doing?
I think we're doing much better. Do you know what I mean? But I still think we're caught up in this dilemma between we want to talk about mental health, and we're all is the buzzword. We're terrified to talk about mental illness because it's a very frightening area and we don't really understand it a lot. But we're refusing to talk about the thing that's actually causing the greatest problem and probably the most suicides, and that's emotional distress. So many people that I deal with and that I've dealt with over the years, so many of the patients that came to me over the years, they weren't mentally ill, but they were very, very emotionally distressed. And we get emotionally distressed through all the things that happen to us in life, through relationship breakups, through grief, through loss, through work pressures, all the different things. But then we have all these unhealthy emotions that we all experience. We get anxious, we get ashamed, we feel guilty. And it's if we could learn skills, that's what I've been trying, like I did in Africa, I wanted to teach people skills. So if we can learn the skills to learn to cope ourselves, we don't need experts, we just need skills and information to be able to kind of overcome a lot of this. Because emotional distress is something we can really do something about. Yeah. And I'm absolutely convinced that we would prevent many suicides.
And again, you talk about this, it's your 12th book, and this time it's your most personal. And you have all of those things that you talk about. Dr. Harry Barry, it's Beneath the Surface, a memoir, an Irish doctor's journey of resilience, empathy and self-discovery. Dr. Harry Barry, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Harry.